Welcome to the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. Have you ever wondered how people succeed in real estate and what steps they took to get there? If so, this podcast is for you. Your hosts, Sayla and Eileen Prack, interview top experts in the real estate community to share with you their real estate journey and how they achieved massive success. Our goal is to provide you with valuable real estate resources and to help you apply it to your own real estate goal. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the How Did They Do It Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Eileen Prack, and today we have two fantastic guests for you, Dr. Madhu Ramaswamy, who is a critical care doctor, and Dr. Amit Goyal, who is a board-certified neurosurgeon with a professional and academic background in economics and finance. And together, they are the co-founders of Falcon Capital, a real estate boutique private equity firm based in Washington, D.C., with over $100 million of assets under management across 6 different properties. So Amit, Madhu, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having us. It's an honor and a pleasure. We're doing well.
Yeah, thanks, Eileen. It's great to be here.
Amit, Madhu, can you both share a little bit more about your background and how you guys got started in real estate? Amit, if you would like to go first, and then we'll jump into Madhu afterward.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I am, as Eileen said, a board certified neurosurgeon. I've been in practice now for almost 4 years. And I was born and raised right outside the Washington, D.C. area. I've been an East Coaster for the majority of my life. And growing up, I came, my parents were immigrants who came from India. So I'm a first generation growing up here. And my father actually is the one who introduced me to real estate quite early on. Throughout my childhood, into my high school years, and even into college, he always kept a small real estate portfolio and kept me quite involved with that. And so we were the landlords for a lot of properties in the Northern Virginia area. It taught me a lot about entrepreneurship as well as real estate and how to manage these properties. Then ultimately, as I grew older, I started to transition into my own real estate ventures. I met Madhu and we started our own company here, Falcon Capital, and transitioned into the multifamily space. And so that's where we are now, and that's where we're continuing to head.
Nice. And Madhu, how about yourself?
Yeah, Eileen. So I think my journey was about a decade ago. I learned about multifamily syndications and their potential to create passive income. And at that time, I wasn't looking to get actively involved. I just started practicing as a critical care doctor here in the Washington, D.C. area. And I'd seen a few colleagues, operate in this space. So I invested with them and really didn't think a whole lot about it until I started seeing the returns. And I was quite impressed, especially when compared to how things were doing with my stock portfolio. And I got more and more interested in the sector. I started learning more about it, reading more about it. And soon it became very clear to me that it was interesting enough where I wanted to be on the operations side, actively be able to syndicate these deals. And while I was going through that journey, I met Amit, and we were both trying to do very similar things, and it just made sense for us to combine. And we created Falcon Capital, and that sort of was the beginning of our journey. Yeah, that's kind of how things rolled for me.
So I have to ask too, because both of you are very successful, have very successful careers in the medical industry. And at the same time, though, you guys are high income earners as well. So you guys are making good W-2 wages. And so what was the drive to start in real estate and to create that passive income? And then how did you determine that like real estate was the place where you guys wanted to focus on versus, I think, Madhu, you also mentioned that it wasn't performing as well as the stock market. How did you start making that comparison? And, how did you get started on that side, especially with being doctors yourselves and in that profession? I guess, Madhu, if you'd like to start.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. We get asked that, a decent bit when people get to know that, look, we're doctors, because there are not very many doctors in the multifamily space. We've been to a few conferences, national conferences, and I don't even think I can count on one hand the number of physicians that would attend. So where people often wonder, like, how is it that you do this? And I think my own journey, I was obviously in medicine. I went into private practice, kind of run a small practice along with my partners, which focuses on critical care. And I was always looking for opportunities to be entrepreneurial. That was just kind of, even before I went to med school, I knew I wanted to do something in that space. And I think I looked at healthcare technology as an option. Medicine by itself is an option, and there were a lot of opportunities there. But alongside, I backpacked and traveled for a while when I first started practicing over the last decade. I went to about 30 countries, and all those times I kept running into people or kept seeing around me that real estate had, whether it was a developing country, whether it was Europe, Asia, of course, here in North America, that real estate had consistently been a source of wealth creation for people at different brackets of income, different asset classes. And I realized that there was something consistent about real estate. There was something tangible about real estate. There was a way to be able to relate to it. And that drew me to it. And then as I sort of got more granular, started reading about it, I realized that it's actually a very powerful way for folks, even in our position in medicine, to generate passive flows of income. And if you want to get more involved and granular and build a company or get operational, get entrepreneurial, there was a lot of opportunity. That's sort of how my journey was around identifying real estate as a vehicle for achieving financial freedom, freedom of time, geographic freedom. It's something allows you to not have to be in one place all the time. So those were kind of my reasons. Amit, what do you think?
Yeah, no, great. I think I echo a lot of those sentiments, of course. I think with real estate, like Madhu touched upon, there's this tangible component to it. You can actually go and visit the property in which you're investing, whether it's a single family home, a duplex, or a multifamily apartment complex. So I think that allows people to understand that it's real. That allows people to see their investment, whether it's us or the people who work with us. Also, real estate it's very resilient. It's always necessary. It's always needed, regardless of the asset class that I think we're in. There are ebbs and flows, of course, but understanding how to weather those allows real estate to continue to be a very powerful wealth generation tool. I think for us in medicine, there's a lot of correlations. I think there's a lot of skills that translate into real estate. So in medicine, of course, there's a level of intellect and data analysis that we have to be able to do, which very well translates into what we do on the acquisition side, the underwriting for our real estate properties. But one thing that I think also allows us to be successful with our particular skill set as physicians, we have a human component to our careers. We see people sometimes at the worst times in their lives. It allows us to relate to them on a very personal level. And while we don't do that directly, I would say in real estate, at the same time, when Madhu and I are looking at communities and properties, we're seeing these areas as people. We're seeing the people who live there. We're seeing the children who go to school, and we're trying to ask ourselves, how can we make this community better? Not just how can we turn this into a 5-year profit generating asset and then move on to the next one. So I don't think we can quite do that when we invest in startup funds all the time or other things that are not real estate associated. That's something that struck with me, I think, quite well. I know Madhu and I have had lots of conversations about these with some of the programs we put in place for our tenants. So that it was a bit of a natural fit for us.
So I'm kind of curious too, because we've had past physicians on the show, and I've also, within real estate connected with other physicians. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts and perspective on this as well, because it seems like a common theme, not just in the physician space, but like across the knowledge of many different industries, there's a lack of financial education that people have before they get to invest and they look at different options like real estate. For the two of you, was that the case that you had the financial literacy background to start looking at different ways to invest your income into real estate properties and stocks and start building that side up? Or was there kind of a learning curve at the beginning of your journey as well?
Sure. I can start off and I'll let Mother chime in. I would say both are actually true in terms of what you said. There was definitely a learning curve and there continues to be one. I mean, this is something that we every single day are learning new and different things in the financial world as to how to build our company and how to address our properties. But for me personally, so I was an economics and business major in college. I actually took a couple of years between college and medical school where I was a financial consultant. And very close actually to going to New York to be an investment banker, but I thought better of it. And then, so I came with a bit of a background of finance, probably more than most physicians have. Your statement about financial literacy in medicine is spot on. I mean, it's taught very poorly, if taught at all, to doctors throughout medical school and residency. I think we're starting to learn about it. And there's certainly physicians out there who have taken the lead on this and are providing a lot of literacy to physicians as they graduate from training. But I think if it was taught earlier in a more comprehensive way, that it would benefit a lot of doctors who don't quite understand how the financial markets in this world work, how even real estate works, other wealth generating vehicles. So I think that I had a bit of a step up coming out of college and then going into medical school with my background and interests, also just the entrepreneurial nature that I have. And then as we go deeper and deeper into this world, though, there's so much more we're learning, especially on the multifamily side, the commercial real estate side. So Madhu, I'll let you kind of chime in with your experience.
Yeah, no, I think Amit obviously has the background you mentioned. In my case, I was always interested in sort of financial literacy and read up some, but real estate is a massive sector, as you know, Eileen. There are several subsectors, asset classes within it. So I think what we have recognized as individuals and as a company is that we really want to build this depth of knowledge and expertise in the field we're in, which is multifamily at this point in time, which is the kind of core of our portfolio. So while being financially literate always gives you a leg up and you can evaluate investments a little better, but I also do believe there is uniqueness to every asset class within real estate. And I think we've really hunkered down and read a lot and sort of consumed material that's out, podcasts like this, mentorship circles, conferences. So I think it's a mix of what we came in with and what we are evolving to. And the other thing I think with physicians and in medicine is we're constant learners. We're students. We have to take exams frequently. There's no new literature coming up. We're expected to keep up with it. I think we view real estate very similarly. I think we're both fascinated by data. We're constantly learning from others and really from even what's just being generated out there in terms of podcasts, different blogs, so on and so forth. So I think we recognize the need to constantly evolve.
What do you think that investing in real estate can offer and provide above and beyond, just working the normal physician lifestyle? Like if you were just to work the physician, you are impacting people daily. You're making high wages and high dollar amounts. And then going into real estate as well, what does that add to your life or add to what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I can go first. And I think our specialty, I'm a critical care doctor, Amit's a neurosurgeon. I think both of us are in pretty high intensity specialties. We work nights, we work weekends, we're on call. And it's very exciting. I think I really feel very honored that I'm able to do what I do. I'm very grateful to the patients I get to take care of. But I think it also extracts a toll over time, it does. And also the landscape in medicine is changing a lot. I think a lot of physicians you probably have spoken to are feeling it. I think there's increasing corporatization of medicine, and with it comes its own pressures. So I think a lot of physicians, and I think I share that as well, feel a sense that this maybe should not be the only avenue on which we rely to make a living. I think we all, for the most part, love what we do. There are annoying components to every job. It's true for any job. But having said that, I think it's also important to feel a sense of choice and a sense of knowing that there's an avenue by which we can generate passive income, have a stream of revenue, which will allow us to be able to maybe practice medicine a little bit on our own terms, or even be able to transition out over the next few years for some physicians who may be mid or late career. So I think that is it's the push of what's happening in medicine and the stresses. And then there's the draw of real estate being something which gives you financial freedom, one, but also geographic and time freedom. I don't necessarily have to be at the hospital for 13 or 14 hours, X number of days a month, in order for me to still be able to make a living. And I think real estate offers that. We at Falcon are building a system, operations, a company where we hope we'll have with appropriate hiring and delegation, we can actually offer a sort of a strategic vision as the co-founders, and then be able to build on that sequentially and evolve, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think for me, real estate challenges me in ways that are different from what I see every day in my life as a neurosurgeon. So of course, my career comes with certain challenges, certain gratitudes. I love what I do. My impact can be felt on a personal level. So there's only so many patients I can see and help in a given day. I think real estate and multifamily allows me to do that on a larger scale. the community building that we're able to implement, that means a lot to me. Some of the philanthropic work we can do because of real estate, that matters a lot. It lets us do it on our terms. One of our properties that we have, we took over, and we really focused in on some of the key projects that we could do to help lift up the spirit of the community. And one of those was opening the pool, and for the first time in 8 years. And this is in a southeast city, very hot. Summer months can be difficult. Lots of children on the property, and I mean the residents loved it. The enthusiasm is through the roof, and such a small thing like that, which we take for granted every day. Some of these tenants don't get to experience. That meant a lot. We visit these properties and we see them. So it's a different part of our brains that I think we get to use, and it's rewarding in its own way as well. That being said, a lot of the stuff that Madhu also mentioned about some of the freedom that can afford us from our quote 9-to-5 jobs, so to speak, that's also very nice. It lets me spend more time with my children, my family. We can talk about things that I can, rather than having to speak to only other neurosurgeons about my job right now, I can speak about real estate to almost anybody. People understand it. It's a very simple thing for people to discuss, because almost everybody has experience in it, whether they were a tenant themselves or they're a homeowner. So it opens up those avenues to discuss with other people as well.
So when the two of you met and decided to become business partners and start up Falcon Capital, what steps did you have to take in order to come together to get into your first deal within multifamily or in real estate as a company?
Sure. Madhu, you want to take this, or you want me to?
I would take it. Why don't you go for it?
Okay. So I think so. Madhu and I, we like I said, we met through a mutual mentorship program. That's how we first got started. And the first thing that we identified was, do our values and interests align? I mean, that's something we knew we'd be working very intimately together. And so that, as soon as we noticed that was a fit, then we were able to start deciding, okay, well, what strengths and weaknesses do we each have that we can, are we going to be collaborative, or are we essentially going to be stepping on each other's feet a lot? And I think after a few conversations, we met together, we traveled together, we quickly realized, yes, there is in fact synergy here to be had. Once we realized that, we started to pursue our first deal. Our biggest fear was, do we have the ability to actually participate in this world that's totally nebulous to us, one that we're unfamiliar with? Can we raise money for a deal? Can we actually go and visit a property, identify what needs to be done for that property, and then execute on it? And so really what we did was we started traveling together, visiting properties, talking to our friends, talking to our colleagues who had showed interest in this. And very quickly, we realized that there are opportunities that we've taken advantage of that we didn't even know about as real estate investors, that we can now help our colleagues also avail. And very quickly, people were like, yes, look, we understand what you guys are doing. You've been doing it for a while. We want to do it with you as well. And it's just really it's been a beautiful thing to watch that grow over the last couple of years.
I love that. Madhu, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I think alignment was very important. Even though we're physicians, we have commonality, we're different specialties, but we understand sort of what it takes to be a physician, continue to succeed as one. So I think that always helped. And I think it was very quickly we figured out that we had certain very shared values. At its core was one that, we will always represent ourselves and hold ourselves to high standards like we do in the delivery of medicine, be transparent, and really look out for the best interests of our investors. Luckily, we don't have to rely on just real estate to make a living. We're in medicine very much so that gave us some cushion. And we felt like we wanted to build the company the right way, have the right structures in place, and just be able to do what is best for the asset we're taking over and for our investor base. And I think we have found over the last 2 years that every time we've come to a situation where we have to make a choice of some kind or the other, we sort of reflect on those values, and we almost always invariably agree on what needs to be done next. And I think that's definitely been a core part of why we continue to work together and we succeed.
When you're looking at the properties that you're looking to acquire in the different markets, how do you typically choose the markets that you wanted to get into? And then maybe a little bit about the acquisition itself and maybe your criteria.
Amit, you should take this. Amit heads up our acquisitions, so I'll definitely throw the ball in the court. Yeah.
Well, you could talk to the criteria, Madhu, if you want. You can
No, go for it, Amit.
Regions and stuff. Okay, fair enough. When we start looking at properties and deals, we have an area of the country that we try to stick to. We don't want to expand our footprints too large too fast. So we focus right now predominantly in the Southeast. We have a very strong team in place in the Southeast region. So North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama. These are areas that we focus on, so essentially the Sun Belt states, so to speak. We're on the East Coast ourselves. It's a quick way for us to get down to a place like Atlanta and then be able to see our properties, tour new properties. And so we want to find areas where there's an overall net population growth. There's a migration to the area. That's going to allow us to know that there is, in fact, a need for the service that we're going to provide in the multifamily space. From there, then right now, what we focus predominantly on are value add assets. And so what that means is we like to identify properties that are in a nice area, a nice neighborhood, but maybe somewhat underperforming for whatever reason it might be. It could be because revenue is not being achieved the way it should. It could be because there's lots of capital expenditure and maintenance, deferred maintenance that could be performed to help build up the community. And so we go and we tour properties and try to see what it is about them that could potentially allow us to improve the state of the community and therefore force some appreciation into the value of the property that would give our investors the returns that we look to generate. That's overall, I think, how we like to approach this. We underwrite dozens of deals every month. We're very, very conservative in underwriting. We're very diligent in trying to get all of the most, I think, up-to-date information. We have property tax consultants, insurance consultants. We have a great property management team on the ground who's very familiar with any area that we're looking at. And so all of this information allows us to be as accurate as possible with our forecast. Of course, there's going to be surprises, but overall, I think we do a very good job with that because of the team that we have in place that's helping us.
And if you were to look back at what you've been able to accomplish so far in real estate and what you've been able to build up with Falcon Capital, what do you think has been the biggest contributor to your success as a company? And Madhu, maybe you want to take the first shot at this?
Yeah, I think we respect knowledge and data a lot. And I think this comes from being in medicine. So I think we're pretty meticulous. I think that's how we conduct our professional lives in medicine. So I think that has helped us. We're very diligent. We value input from industry leaders and we seek it. Don't assume that we have all the answers because we don't. It's also a vast space. There's a plethora of information. There's overload of information. So sometimes you're almost like, where do you go for information that you can rely and trust? And I think that's where building the right relationships, being part of mentorship circles, going to these conferences, I think has helped us sift through this. So I think it's the respect we have and the value we place on education and appropriate knowledge and data. I think that's helped us. It's helped us steer in the right direction and frankly avoid some situations which we're very glad we never got ourselves into.
How about for you, Amit? Is there anything else or anything different that you want to add?
I think, going back to when we touched on why Madhu and I, partnered, our interests were closely aligned, our values are closely aligned. And one of those key values for us is just they're our investors. They're putting their trust in us. We know most of these people personally. And so we come from a place where with our patients, they do the same thing. We have this inherent, I think, ability to garner trust and to maintain it. And we take that very seriously. And so I think putting their interests first, because we also are side by side with them in these deals with our own capital. And so putting their interest first over Falcon's interest even is, I think, is what really sets us apart. I mean, I know a lot of companies do that, and I don't want to say that we're the only ones that do it, but we really take that to heart, that these are people we see every day at work, people we see in the neighborhood, friends and family that we see on the weekends. And we want to make sure that we are good stewards of their investments. Because ultimately we have to answer to them. We try to be very transparent if something isn't quite going right that we want, and give them an idea for how we're going to right the ship. We will forego any kind of return for Falcon in order to make sure that our investors are kept whole. So I think these are guiding principles for us that are very important that we strive to maintain.
So you've been in real estate for more than a decade at this point. How has real estate investing impacted your lives? Amit, if you want to go first.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Um, so I would say, first of all, it's given me a great friend here in Madhu. I wouldn't have met him if I hadn't gone down this route of multifamily and real estate. I can actually say he's probably the closest thing I have to a brother now. I don't have any brothers. So that's been very nice to have that kind of relationship and to work together to build a company. Being an employed physician, I don't get the chance to be much of an entrepreneur in my normal job. This allows me to do that. This gives me a totally different opportunity to be a businessman, to be an entrepreneur, and to get into that whole space that I really love. It's a total different part of my brain and my personality. Having some of the passive income that real estate is generating, I'm already starting to see the benefits of it, where I don't have to necessarily take as much call as a neurosurgeon because I'm having some of these passive streams of income that allows me to go to my daughter's swim practices. I got to coach my son's soccer team. I don't think I could have done that 3 years ago. I mean, the hours that I was working, the call demand that I had, and I'm hoping that these types of things are going to are going to blossom even more as we build Falcon and generate even more passive income for ourselves and grow as a company where I can spend time in my family's life.
How about you, Madhu?
Yeah, no, I definitely relate to a lot of what Amit is saying. I think for me, it's it's allowed me to fulfill my desire to be entrepreneurial. I think it's given me a very good avenue where we're seeing the fruits of everything that we've been doing over the last many years, and it's a journey, right? Like it's the growth can be exponential. It's a lot of it is our ability to dedicate time, effort in a very efficient manner. And I think it's very exciting to feel that we're part of building something which will continue to grow and continue to evolve depending on how the market does, how the economy does, how we handle the whole thing strategically. So I think that's very exciting. So I think a feeling of hope, a feeling of hope for the future, like in terms of being able to meet some of the goals I mentioned about earlier, freeing up time, being able to sort of geographically not be limited to a place. I can see all this happening, and that's a very joyful feeling, I think.
And what is the one thing that you know now about real estate that you wish you knew when you first started, Madhu?
I'd say that the one thing I'd say I'd know is not, Amit touched upon this a lot. Not everybody comes from the same place in terms of what their value and guiding light is. So when we do transactions, it's a very vast field. There is theoretically not much barrier to entry to real estate. You don't need a professional degree to be in real estate. So the field is filled with folks from all kinds of backgrounds. And what we're realizing is that it's important to when we sit down across the table to transact business, seller, buyer, vendors, I think it's important to really get a sense of who it is that you're dealing with, and how seriously are they likely to take their commitment in terms of timeline, representing themselves in data. Because as physicians, to be honest, I feel we are generally very trusting people. We always kind of like to see the good in people. Where our career is built on helping folks. And I think I'm realizing here that we have to exercise just a little bit more of caution to make sure we're dealing with people who think about things similar to us.
And then Amit, what is one thing that sets the successful people apart in real estate investing?
Yeah, I think Madhu kind of hit a lot of this with his answer as well. In medicine, we have a saying that says "trust but verify." I think that that's very, very true in real estate. Knowing who you're dealing with, having the insight to double check, triple check things, whether it's your model, whether it's the realistic figures that are coming through, understanding all that and being able to say, okay, yes, I know what's going in and what's coming out and what to expect. Having a good team in place, understanding you can't do everything by yourself. You may not necessarily do construction or do the property management. So finding the people who can help you to do that. At the end of the day, it all boils down to, I think, patience. You've got to be patient, whether you're acquiring a deal, whether you're selling a deal, as you're running a deal. Things are not going to go according to schedule. And understanding how to roll with those punches, how to navigate those difficulties, and being patient along the way is going to allow you to keep your sanity, and then to be able to come out the other side realizing not just the fact that you did build a great community, you're helping that community, but you're also keeping the promises, or at least the expectations of your investors, true, because you kept a level head on your shoulders.
Awesome. And for our listeners out there also who want to find out more about you and your company, where's the best place that they can go to reach out?
Yeah, we have a website, falconcapllc.com, and there's a contact us page on that. It's got a small form. If you fill it out, it comes directly to our email, and we'd be happy to set up a call or answer questions over email if you'd like. So that's probably the best way to contact us. And we also have email addresses that, if possible, on this podcast, we could have a little slide or accompanying it at some point in time. We could also do that. Yeah, but we're always happy to engage folks to have a discussion, answer any questions. Yeah, we'd love that.
Awesome. Amit, Madhu, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate everything that you shared with us today. It's amazing what you guys are able to, impact the lives of people, not just in healthcare and people who actually need your support in that area, but also on the real estate side, the residents and the team that you're impacting. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Eileen. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Eileen. Thanks for having us. This was a great chat. Thank you.
And thank you for listening to our podcast today, brought to you by Bonavest Capital. We would really appreciate it if you can go to iTunes right now and leave a rating and written review. Also, please don't forget to subscribe so you can always get the latest episodes. You can also connect with us on Facebook, How Did They Do It Real Estate. We'd love to hear your feedback and any topics that you're interested in for future episodes. Lastly, to learn more about us, you can go to bonavestcapital.com and fill out the Contact Us page so you can speak to us directly. Nothing on the show should be considered as specific personal advice. Please consult your legal, tax, and real estate professionals for individualized advice.